Hey everyone, it's Adrian, and hope you're doing well. Unfortunately, the pageant industry has recently been in the media once again for not such glamorous reasons. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying everything is allegations at the moment, nothing's being proved. My purpose behind doing a video such as this is not to add to any of the drama or the gossip, but to lay out what I would like to see, lay out how I would like to see the pageant industry deal with issues such as this when maybe something not so great has happened and something really should be done rather than just trying to sweep it under the rug. And also prefacing this by saying innocent to until proven guilty. But what happened on the weekend? So last Saturday was that allegedly, I'm going to again preface all these are allegations. Nothing's been proved. However, nothing's been stated to the contrary either. The allegation was that Miss World Scotland, Lucy Sophia Thomson, was inebriated at a rugby event and had to be ejected. Now, that obviously is not such. That's not a good thing to begin with. But the more disturbing allegations were that she bit someone, as far as we can make out, the bouncer who was trying to escort her out. She bit that bouncer and called him the racial slur, the N word. The N word. I'm obviously not going to say it. Now, these are what transpired was that it looked like some people took videos of it because I can show you actually over here. I mean, it's very blurry. This is what happens when it's allegations, but this apparently is a photo of what happened. Someone took a video of it, and in the world of pageantry, everyone knows everyone, but particularly over in the UK, where the pageant industry is smaller, what happened was that someone had taken a video, or no, someone posted a story saying that this Miss Scotland had attacked one of her friends, bit him, and called him the N word, and then word got around to the point where I think everyone in the UK pageant industry, particularly in Scotland, is now aware of the allegations and wants to see something done about it. So that's what purportedly happened. Now, what's happened since then is that Lucy herself, her account has gone onto private. It wasn't on private before, as best I can remember. The Miss World Scotland page has also gone on to private, which I think is a bit worrying. Their Facebook page has been accused of deleting comments, and I'm fairly certain that is accurate. They have been deleting any comments that refer to this event. And the Scottish Fashion Association, which apparently is a small business that Lucy herself owns, has issued one of those statements which says that we're aware of the incident, we take such allegations seriously, etc., etc. It's one of those ones that is kind of like a placeholder to say, give us a moment, and then we'll address it. Which, look, it's fair enough. But this has been a week now, and I did want to give it about a week before I made any sort of video because I think, obviously, when something like this happens, I can understand if, let's say, and there's press involved, major press outlets have published this story. If press is getting involved, maybe there's lawyers getting involved, maybe there's statements being prepared. But I think now that a week has passed without any of the allegations being addressed, I think this is a worrying precedent. And I say that because it is not like this sort of event has not happened before. If you've been in the pageant industry for any amount of time, you're well aware from time to time there are scandals. There are things that happen that are not so good, and that happens in any industry. That's not an attack on the pageant industry. Sometimes bad things happen in any area of life. But from my perspective, what I would really like to see is someone getting in front of it and addressing it, not just ducking for cover, running, and just waiting for it to all blow away, which after a week kind of seems to be what's happening. Now, in this case, the police have gotten involved. Apparently, there's a police investigation ongoing. So I can sort of understand why maybe no statement. Well, again, I don't really think it's acceptable, at least from the Miss World Scotland organization. Now, again, innocent until proven guilty. But what has happened in the past, and I'll cite the example and I'll show you this article. This was published by Jezebel over last year or perhaps 2021. Yeah, late 2021. Now, this is a friend of mine, Marissa Butler, who was Miss World America, did an interview where she outlined some of the ways in which she had been mistreated by the organization. Now, she made these allegations. It's not gone to court. So, again, like nothing has been proved as far as I'm aware. But she stated, and I know Marissa and I know her character. I have no reason to believe that she falsified these allegations. But one of the sponsors, I mean, you can read these articles. I'll link to them in the description below if you want to read them. But basically, one of the sponsors, I believe, there insisted on hand feeding her sushi with chopsticks, which obviously made her very uncomfortable. She doesn't need to be hand fed, doesn't want to be hand fed. And the director who was sitting there with her of Miss World America at the time, I should say that that's since changed, but the director did nothing and was laughing along. And just generally, it paints a picture of a director who I would say is trying to over sexualize or exploit Marissa, and she wasn't having any of it, and good for her. Now, the reason that I'm citing this example is because that was published and then nothing really was done about it. So, yes, the director has changed quietly behind the scenes, but there was no statement released, as far as I can tell, by the Miss World. Well, there were denials of what Marissa had said had happened. So I guess you can take that as some sort of statement. But I really would have also liked to see the Miss World International organization make some sort of statement when one of your title holders comes out and makes these sorts of allegations. I think you really need to show that you've taken them seriously, that there has been some sort of investigation, and that whether it's true or not, that there are safeguards. Here's the thing, there are safeguards in place to prevent this sort of thing from happening again. And what I really didn't like about this particular incident with Marissa was that she felt the need to publish the story, which in my mind means that she didn't feel it was handled well enough by the organization. And then really all we got from the organization was, no, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. We'd never do that. And then the international organization didn't issue a statement, again, as far as I'm aware, in support of its title holder, one of its national title holders. And then just quietly, it was swept under the rug with no indication that something like this didn't happen and will never happen again in the future, as far as that's possible. So, what I'm seeing, and it's eerily similar in a lot of respects with this incident, is we have an allegation that a title holder has behaved incredibly inappropriately. Now, again, the allegation, but just taking the particulars of this situation aside, it's hard to believe that the allegation is completely false and completely made up because it's a bit too specific. And I've been shown things behind the scenes which make me think, there is definitely a chance that something happened. Now, whether there was actual biting and whether a racial slur was used, I wasn't there. And I will also say that a lot of people jumping on the hate wagon, they weren't there either. So just be careful when you're calling for someone to be dethroned, which is what most people seem to be calling for. You weren't actually there. So, just because it can come back to bite you, and it should, if you are if you're making statements when you don't actually know what happened. But there does seem to be a good chance that there's some element of truth to the allegations. Now, in the case that a title holder behaves inappropriately, what should happen is that there is an investigation to find out whether there's truth to the allegations or not. I think there should be a statement saying that the investigation is commenced, is ongoing, and that we take these allegations seriously. Now, the Scottish Fashion Association, as I said, published a story saying that, but is there actually something going on, or is that just something to, shoo you away and say, just go away and we'll wait till you forget about this and nothing's going to be done? That's what I'm worried about. What worryingly, I mean, the Miss World Scotland Instagram page went on private. The Facebook page began deleting all the comments calling for an investigation. And then they issued a post about 24 to 48 hours afterwards saying that next year's competition entries are open, which seems just wildly horrific timing. I mean, I guess it's possible that that was scheduled beforehand. But when your title holder has been accused of extremely inappropriate and quite disgusting behavior, again, alleged, it doesn't seem the right time to say, hey, guess what? Entries for next year are now open. So they have yet, and when I say they, the Miss World Scotland organisation have yet to issue any kind of statement, as far as I'm aware. The Scottish Fashion Association, which is Lucy's business, did. I don't think they've issued any statement since then. Lucy herself, her Instagram account has gone private, and I don't believe there's been any sort of statement made through there. But the point is, the organisation itself has not addressed it. They have not said that they're aware of it. They have not said that there's an investigation. And now here's what happens. People are now worried that this is just going to be quietly swept under the rug, and that Lucy will then go to represent Scotland at Miss World. And if you know anything about Scotland, I've worked with more than a few Scottish girls very closely. You know that they are a very proud country. I'm not going to cite Braveheart as an example of that, but the Scots are very proud of their country. And the overwhelming sentiment seems to be, if this is true, they certainly don't want someone who's exhibited that kind of character to be representing their country on such a prestigious stage as the Miss World stage. So for those of you who don't know, this is exactly what the first runner-up, or the second runner-up, if the first runner-up is unable to do so, this is where they state quite often verbatim that if the winner is unable to fulfill her duties for any purpose, then the first runner-up will step in. Or if the first runner-up can't step in, then the second runner-up will step in, so on and so forth. So what I believe, what I would really like to see happen, because as I said, I don't want to add to the drama of it, that's not my intent. But I want to lay out what I would like to see happen and how I would like to see pageant systems actually get in front of and address serious allegations, rather than just hoping they all go away or putting out a statement that really doesn't say anything. You know, it's one of those statements that sounds, it's like a mission statement that you get at a Fortune 500 company. Very often it sounds real good, but there's nothing there. It's just air. It's just words on a page. What I would like to see happen, obviously you need to put out a statement saying we're aware. Secondly, I think you should issue a statement saying we are investigating. And thirdly, I think actually you should say that you are in full support of your current title holder up until and we're going to not make a further statement until the investigation is concluded. Now, if the investigation is concluded and it's proven that your title holder is innocent, then that should be stated, and it should be stated how you arrived at that conclusion. If the title holder is found guilty of behavior which you deem unacceptable, and obviously any system should deem biting someone in public who's just trying to do their job and calling them a racial slur, obviously that if you don't think that's inappropriate, I don't know what planet you live on, okay? If it's found that there is truth to those allegations, and even if it's not quite the extent that some people said, but it's something approaching that, and it goes over the lines of, hey, do you want this person to actually represent your country or not? Is this the best person that your country can put forth? Are you going to hold them up as a title holder, as a role model? If it turns out, okay, we can't send this person, then you need to make that decision as quickly as you can. Obviously, you've done the investigation, so it's concluded, yes, there was substance to the allegations. Then what you need to do is put out a statement, part ways as amicably as you can. There's no point slandering anyone. I'm not a proponent in any way of throwing hate onto social media or anywhere. There's no need to do that. It doesn't make anyone better. Mental health is important. Even if you've done something wrong, it doesn't mean you should just be viciously attacked for no reason, right? Hopefully you know you've done wrong and that's bad enough. And then you make reparations. But it's not for other people to jump on the hate wagon. I detest that sort of behavior. But the title holder needs to be stood down, and then what should happen is that it goes down the order of succession, much like it would in the royal family. So you go, except it's not descendants, obviously, but you go from, okay, title holder is taken out, we go to first runner-up. We ascertain whether they're able to perform the duties or not. In this case, going to Miss World International later this year. Okay, if the first runner-up can't do it, then we go down the line of second. If you go down the line of succession, as it were, and there's no one appropriate, then you probably want to either appoint someone or hold another pageant to find someone. And I have to think that for a pageant as prestigious and as big as World, you would be able to do either of those. If you weren't able to go down the line of succession and have one of the runner-ups go, you would be able to find a suitable person to appoint given their pedigree, their character, their experience, or hold a placeholder pageant, as it were, to determine someone who is suitable. But and then obviously you want to make sure, please, that the systems that you put in place to pick someone, in Marissa's case, it was put systems in place to make sure this sort of abuse by a sponsor, alleged, doesn't happen again. And don't put directors in place who think that's appropriate. So some system to address that. In this case, I want the system to look at their way of selecting a title holder and go, okay, is there any way that we could have predicted theoretically our title holder being someone not of sound character, not someone that we want representing our country? Is there anything you could have done? And very often, in this case, I think it's more difficult. I think it's easier to vet whether a sponsor or someone is suitable than whether someone is going to represent your country as a title holder, only because pageant queens, by and large, are very, very careful, as they should be, of presenting a good face in public. Very often these sponsors and directors, they're moneyed up, so it's not difficult to see when they behave in a vulgar manner. And I think you could more easily find that out than whether a pageant queen, for example, is behaving inappropriately. But is there some way in the interview room, for example, that you can ascertain this? Can you look through their past social media? That's a very obvious one. I was thinking that you could get like a character reference, in terms of, like, when you go for a job, you want character references to state that you're a sound character so that you're good for the job. But then again, I have the same problem with that as I do with character references, is that you just get your friend to do it. And so whether that would actually work, I don't know. And by that, I mean, like, if I want to go for a job, I won't actually get a previous boss to tell, on my CV, who really hates me, and tell the potential new employer, oh yeah, Adrian is a piece of crap, never hire him. I'll get someone who obviously is going to say good things about me. And in some cases, not that I would do this, not that I condone this, but you can sort of, say good things about me, right? Say this. And that obviously defeats the purpose of having a referee in the first place. But is there some way that we can lessen the chance of this happening? Because what you have to see, you sending one person, that title holder is representative of everyone else that doesn't get to go. And by that, I mean you have a pageant, and let's say 20 girls compete, 10 girls compete. You're sending one person. That person you've deemed as the best or the most suitable title holder for you is inherently representative of the other 10 or the other 20. Now, the other 10 or 20 don't get to go. And if they have worked their butts off, and they are not perfect people, but they have really embodied the qualities, the beliefs, the values of your system, your country, what you believe, and then they see that someone has violated those beliefs and values, and you're going to send them anyway, that's the big problem that I have. If all of this turns out that the allegations are true and nothing gets done, that's the big problem I have. A lot of people will just go, oh, it's just a pageant, who cares? For me, it's much more important than that, and it's much more insidious than that. And it really betrays whether you have character or not. In terms of leadership, talking about the system, if this turns out to be true, and did you investigate it? You really should. You don't want to just not investigate it, hoping that because if you investigate it, you might find out it's true. You need to investigate it. It's a serious allegation. And then if you find out that it's true and you send that person anyway, well, that's for powers higher than me to judge, let's say, in the next life. Because I really, really believe that if you were one of the contestants and you worked your butt off, or even if you didn't, but you see that someone has committed really, really inappropriate behavior and has shown a complete lack of character that's suitable as a title holder, and you see that they get sent in place of you anyway, how are we supposed to take your system seriously in the future? I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to interview, by the way, anyone competing for your system, not because I don't like them, but because I don't want to give your system any publicity, because it certainly doesn't deserve any. Again, if this is true, I have to keep saying that. So that is my 10 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents worth. That's what I would like to see happen when this sort of incident happens, whether it's this sort of incident with a title holder or, as in Marissa's case, with the system itself. Obviously, we've had scandals in the Miss USA system, and just in general, what we really need is some degree of transparency, because there's too much gossip. And the best way to get rid of it is to be transparent. If people really know what's going on, and when you make a decision, they know why you made a decision, they may still disagree with it, but at least you can lay out your reasons for making the decision. I think so much of the gossip and intrigue and pageantry, and please don't tell me it doesn't exist. It, no, we know it exists. But I think so much, it may not exist to the extent that some people believe, but it exists. The reason it exists or continues to exist in my mind is because of opacity. It's a lack of transparency. As soon as you don't have transparency, particularly surrounding how you selected your title holder, that is an invitation for everyone to gossip about how someone got picked and how someone got selected. And then if you have all these things going on behind the scenes and you're not addressing them up front and you're being seen not to do anything and hoping it just goes away, that just adds to the problem. And then what happens? Pageantry only gets in the media when stuff like this happens. And then you wonder why pageant like entry numbers, pageant participation, or even searches on Google for pageants or pageant coaches, why those are at the lowest point that they've been in probably the last 10 years. And you want to go, oh, everyone should enter a pageant. Pageants are still relevant. You can say that all you want, but the coalface, what people see, is what the media is portraying. And the media is only portraying the scandals. So you may want the media to portray pageant in a more positive light. That's all well and good, but that's a very esoteric, out there, ethereal argument. What we need to do as an industry is hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I say that as a coach, whether you're a fan or a contestant, a director, a sponsor, we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard individually. There's no point telling everyone what they should do, what they shouldn't do. I know in this case, I've laid out what I believe should happen. But in terms of the individual action that you will take, that's what I'm talking about. So the action I'm taking is putting this out there, making people aware of what I would do in this situation. And the only reason I do that is because I've had experience interviewing over 300 pageant queens over the last 6 or 7 years. So I feel like I have something to add to the conversation. But, if you are someone seeing this, what are you going to do to ensure that our industry is a better and safer place, a more representative place of the highest qualities that our young women, our young contestants have, rather than, what it sometimes seems to dissemble into and just be a melting pot of disaster and scandal. And I really do think that comes down to our individual behaviors. It's not about making an industry guilty or some organization guilty. It's like, well, what are you going to do about it? So are you going to indulge in gossip or not? Are you going to call for action or not? Are you going to make sure that what you put out is measured and not done just out of spite? Are you going to do that or not? And what's your social media like? Are you one of those people, and there is this, ongoing people who talk about the importance of mental health, and then you jump on someone's live and say, oh, yeah, I can't believe they picked that person as a winner, she's terrible. And I don't say that as an exaggeration. I've literally seen that happen. Are you going to be one of those hypocrites, or are you going to be one of those people who really behaves, whether they win or not, whether you win or not? Are you really going to be behaving like the queen that you think the world deserves? And I think at the end of it, that's what worries me about this incident, is that nothing will get done. And it would be a sad reflection of the state that we've gotten to in the industry, which is where something so serious can happen, alleged, and then nothing gets done. That's really worrying. I think that sets a very dangerous precedent, and I think it's time that sort of behavior stops and it's held to account. So that's my 5 cents worth. You're more than welcome to your opinion. You can give me your opinion in the comments, whether you agree, disagree. As I said, I have no interest in adding to the drama. I just wanted to put my 5 cents out there in terms of how I would like to see this sort of incident handled, by the organization, both the national one and the international one, um, and in the interest of creating a more transparent and fairer pageant industry, and one that can actually continue into the future and have some chance of having a legitimacy in the public's eye, where we're not just in the industry because we're not just in the media because, oh, new scandal, oh, new scandal, oh, new scandal. um, and again, it starts with one step at a time. So, if you're not involved in this, good for you. um, just make sure that you're behaving as the queen that you believe the young women looking up to you actually deserve. So let me know your thoughts below, whether you agree or disagree. Free speech is incredibly important to me. And I will speak to you next time.